you doing? And hello to all the ladies, gents, and everyone else in the audience. I am so glad and grateful that you come to listen, and welcome to technically episode 3 of Did You Hear We Are Here, the Seussical Stories podcast, where we talk about anything, everything, and all things Seussical the Musical, created by a fan for the fans. I say technically episode 3 because we had 3 episodes prior, so this would make it 5, but those were all part of under episode 2. So, you can call it whatever you want, but for me, it's technically episode 3. Um, Today, sorry it took me a little bit. We've been editing the past episodes that we're trying to get out hopefully sometime this month. But now that that's the getting taken care of, we actually have our first interview today, which is really exciting. I wanted a break from script stuff for a little bit, so this today's guest actually DM'd me after the first episode premiered and was interested in talking about his story as well as the impacts that Seussical has made on his life and what more he has to share and his 2 cents with the show. So this guest, he has 2 YouTube channels that he has made within the past 2 years. One of which has reached about around 50,000, 55,000 subscribers, if I'm remembering correctly. He is a recording artist, content creator coach, as well as being a content creator himself. And he just is a all-around very kind person and just likes to help people out and use his entertainment as a way to both educate and make people happy. And we are going to learn about what he kind of had to do with Seussical and why that kind of connects to the life he lives today. So, without further ado, so you don't have to keep hearing me talking, it is my pleasure to welcome to the show Nigel Battle.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, and definitely congratulations on this podcast. I'm so in love with the idea and very excited to be a part of it. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I was very surprised. It was a very pleasant surprise to get your DM and or your comment and hearing that someone is actually interested in the show and that I don't have to go bother the Broadway cast members for interviews is nice. Uh, because we're mutuals on Instagram, so they're familiar. They're like, oh, it's that fangirl again. Um, but anyway, yeah. How are you, Nigel?
I'm so good and so excited to get into what this show means to me because it's everything to me. And when I saw your post that you, because I think that you had not yet started the podcast yet, you were just kind of promoting it, and that's when I immediately saw it. And I follow the hashtag Seussical everywhere. I'm constantly looking for auditions to reprise the role that I played. So like anything Seussical always comes in my through my feed. So that's how I ended up finding you that day, and I just knew I had to be part of it.
Yes, and I am so grateful that you did, and that I have the honor of making you my first guest because this is really exciting. Both a learning experience for me, who's just starting out, and hopefully you can help me a little bit as we kind of go on with it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so my first question for you was, for the audience, of course, maybe tell us a little bit about yourself that I may not have included in my little summary about you and some of your interests.
Yeah, so thank you for such a wonderful intro. First off, you definitely all the information was correct. I am a full time content creator right now. I got my start though in my creative endeavors through theater arts. When I was younger, my mom put me into a theater camp, and I actually did about 6 or 7 years of that. And I was always in an ensemble member, and I love telling this story because, as you know, my mom recently passed, and one of the greatest things I think she ever left me was that confidence. And she put me in a theater camp for 7 summers. I kept on getting an ensemble, and I was very upset because I knew I was capable of more. But those 7 theater summers of rehearsals and practicing and doing other shows as an ensemble member really taught me a lot. And my mom made sure I stuck with it. She told me I was gonna get a role one day, just keep on trying. And finally, in my 8th grade year, at the age of 12, I landed my first leading role, and it was Horton the elephant in Seussical. So in so many ways, this show was the beginning of, because after that I was able to continue theater and play many other roles and do many other things on YouTube and become a recording artist. But I always like to give that credit to Seussical and to the power and the heart that Horton has, because when I sang Alone in the Universe and I sang Salo Salute and I connected with that character, it really, like, it resonated with me for the rest of my life. And there's an honesty and a pureness from that character that I carry with me in everything that I do now, and I'm just so grateful for it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And of course, I can relate heavily to the whole ensemble thing. This is my fifth year doing theater. So I think up until last summer, I believe, was in the ensemble a lot. And, sometimes it was like, okay, I wish I could do more. And I'm not the greatest dancer. I can kind of sing, but, that's up for debate. But it's still just that sense of community and really getting to tell this story, these different stories to all these people. And who knows, people can also maybe see you in the background and like, oh, that's her, she's the one I kept my eye on the whole time, because you always have that one ensemble member you always pay attention to.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just really, I think it's just, it gives you a lot of lessons and experience that eventually, when you do go to these more featured and lead roles, you kind of carry what you got from ensemble with you, and it really helps to develop your craft as an actor.
Yes,
And
for
yeah,
sure. As
um,
a kid though, I didn't realize that. So I always thank my mom for being the one to say stick with it, you can do this, because as a kid you get let down when you get ensemble so many times. But I would tell someone who's just now starting out in theater that exact same thing, like stick with it, your time will come, and when it does, you're so much more appreciative and prepared, because there is a lot to learn about the stage from being an ensemble member. So the first thing you want to do is get out of it when you're a kid. But from an adult's perspective, it's definitely necessary. It's definitely needed to help you get better. So I'm appreciative of the journey that I had for sure.
yeah, of course, and I'm so glad that you we get to hear it today, and we're gonna get to Horn in just a little bit. But I also wanted to ask you two more things that are just mainly general. What got your interest? I mean, apart from your mom, in wanting to do theater and performing in general.
Oh my gosh, I I think just like I'm like a Disney kid.
Mm.
So I think like being in front of the TV for so many amazing musicals, and my favorite movies were The Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin. And now as an adult, I realize that those movies, they were written with the idea that they were going to give the Broadway theatrical experience in a VHS movie. And I didn't realize that when I was a kid. I was just watching the movie. But now watching behind the scenes and seeing everything that it takes to create those animated features, like if you watch like a special edition or behind the scenes look at The Little Mermaid or Aladdin, they'll tell you that was their goal, was to create that theatrical experience in a movie. So in a lot of ways, my plunge to theater basically came from the fact that once I found out that you could sing, act, and dance, and all these things that people were doing in my favorite Disney movies, that I could do that with people on stage, I was like, oh, we got to try this. And my mom was very, very amazing at making sure that I was always in something. I always grew up with like a very creative, fun, vibrant personality. So it was always a matter of just finding a place to channel it, finding a place to put it. And I did everything from soccer to cheerleading to baseball to basketball, gymnastics, swimming, everything. So once we saw theater was an option and I got in it, it fit like a glove. While the rest of the things I tried, I always, I had to try a little harder. I wasn't the best. Once I got my hand into theater, acting and singing, it's just that's where I felt comfortable. That's where it fit like a glove, and yeah, it just works so beautifully. And I would say, to answer that question though, definitely I attribute it to Disney, because it was the closest thing to being in a Disney movie as being on stage. So
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's so nice now that we have those movies have been. I think, yeah, all of them, all the three that you mentioned are musicals now. So really to see. that become a reality, that must have been like amazing.
Yeah, no. To live it has been like a miracle because you're right. Like when I was a baby, they were all on VHS, and little by little, all those shows have been rewritten for the Broadway stage in New York, and it's a beautiful thing because now like kids nowadays get to see it in the way that it was meant to be seen. They just didn't have like the creative capacity to create it as a huge stage thing back in the '90s, but now they do, and I love that. Yeah, I love that now. Like a 10-year-old's first experience of Beauty and the Beast can be the live Broadway version, and that's such a more vibrant way to see it. And it's been a beautiful journey for Disney, and now with Disney Plus, we have so much more. Like everything I'm telling you is basically what I've learned just kind of snooping around Disney Plus. Like we have so much more insight into that world and into that, that journey of Disney. So it's beautiful.
Yeah, and again, like for the many ups and downs the company has, they just really know how to like appeal to that musical theater aspect and tell these stories in different mediums, but still have that central core of this is a theatrical sort of story that we want to tell, and this is how this is what should always be kept in mind when trying to perform it, whether it's the animated movie or the soon to be live action one or the other live action ones, or if you're doing it on stage, it's just that core of the songs that carry the story and these sets and places that help to like impact the characters and how they live. It's just all wonderful, and I think Disney, especially with Alan Menken as a majority of the company's composer for songs, is just masterful with that.
No, he is, and the fact that he's still working and creating projects and it's still continuing is also so beautiful. And now with YouTube, there's so much to be grateful for. So I just love carrying on the energy of Disney in any show that I do. I even just like the morals and just the way that I interact with people on a daily basis. It sounds so cheesy, but I just really try to just have that Disney princess mentality. Kindness, sweet. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like it sounds so cheesy, but like who doesn't want to have that interaction? You know what I mean? Like I don't want to, even if I'm not having the best day, it's probably for my best interest and everyone around me for me to just carry out like a more Disney way because that's just what people want to see. It's how to just keep things happy. So yeah, it's inspired my life in so many ways.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I remember seeing on one of your Instagram posts that you played Sebastian the Crab at one point in Little Mermaid. How was that like coming full circle?
Oh my gosh, it was exactly that. It was so full circle. I it was my whole heart because Little Mermaid is my favorite Disney musical, and that role meant a lot to me, and to be a part of that show meant a lot to me. And it was an all ages show, and the majority of the audience was always kids. So once I got casted, I immediately took it upon myself to just make it the most amazing experience for those kids, because then at that point in time, it's my job to make sure they get the same show, the same like energy that I got when I watched the movie. And I think a lot of my castmates were surprised by me. Like they would always say, "Oh my gosh, like you did so good! Like you went 200%." And I'm like, "You don't understand. Like I have to make sure they felt what I felt when I first saw Under the Sea, and it's a lot harder in person and live on stage. But I still felt that pressure to make sure that they just got the most magical experience. And I'm so proud of that show, and I'm so proud of the way it turned out because I really gave it my all. And that was my first show back in about 9 or 10 years, because in between doing theater in high school and my 20s, I fell into the new social media world where I started YouTube. So it felt like something was missing for a while, and yeah, I went on that audition, and once I got in, I was like, oh, I have to do this. This is my favorite show in the world, and now I'm bit by the bug again. So now I'm back on auditions, and I'm doing shows again, like full on, just because of that one return to the stage. So
Oh, that is just amazing.
yeah.
Yeah, what I would kill to like maybe have something like that with me for like Cats, because I remember watching that DVD religiously in middle school, and maybe to have, if I ever do have dancing skills, like to be Grisabella or to be one of the ensemble cats would just blow me away. But it's so it's just so nice that you get to have that moment and to be able to share the story that you fell in love with so long ago as a child, and to bring that to the new generation of children
Yeah.
is just inspiring.
Yeah,
So it
it
did
was
remind me, how did you get your start professionally?
for online or for stage.
Stage.
So for stage, the Little Mermaid show was still community theater. So I haven't done anything professional for stage. I still do community theater. I am, however, like some of the auditions that I have lined up for this year are professional, like off Broadway theaters. So I am on my way into, increase, like, raising the odds a little bit. But because I hadn't done an onstage show in about 10 years, I got my foot back in with the community theater show. But I am looking to kind of like level up and, keep on looking to see um, if there are opportunities to do professional theater, but I haven't done it yet. I've just done the community theater, which is still a lot of fun. So people should definitely still do it for their communities.
Of course, of course. I said I may be biased because I'm in a community production of Les Mis right now, but
Oh,
crossing my
cool.
beards. um, um, yeah, but I mean, I guess if with the professional stuff you do have, how did you get your start? Like, I guess as a like content creator and a coach.
Yeah, so for my professional online career, that started because so after I did my last musical theater show was about when I was like 20 or 21. Once I turned 21, I got into like the bar scene within my the LGBT community, and that's when I started doing drag, and that was kind of like my way of mixing all of everything I learned from theater and doing it my own way. I always enjoyed theater and I love shows, but I always connect with a lot of the strong like female leading characters. Like in both Disney movies and in theater. So once I saw that drag was kind of picking up in the world and that could be a way for me to use that outlet, I did that. So it was so much fun because rather than doing traditional drag performances in my 20s, I did a lot of Broadway. I've done like Sandra Dee and I've done different stuff from Aida and things like that and Broadway mixes. So I found a way to kind of mix my love of theater with drag, and I did that in all of my 20s. And then in the year of 2020, not that performing live ran its course, but I just wanted to try something different as a drag queen entertainer. And then that's when I worked with a producer and created my first single for iTunes and Spotify. And then once that was finished, I know I needed to make a music video for it. I uploaded the music video to YouTube, and I literally looked at my channel and I was like, okay, if there's no better time to start YouTube than right now, because once I had the music video, I needed a place to put it, and then once I put it on there, I kind of saw all that open space. And me being the creative person I've been my whole life, everyone's always told me to try YouTube. Everyone's always told me I have what it takes to make it on YouTube, but I never believed in myself in that way. I would kind of laugh it off when people say like, "Oh, you have what it takes," or "You have a great smile for it," or "You have the personality." It was nice that other people thought that about me, but I never thought of myself that great. And for some reason, in the year 2020, I just decided to attempt to be what other people thought of me. And I just started uploading and I started just showing my personality online. And within a year, it grew, and I made partner with Google, and I got monetized with my channel. And then that's when I also realized that, wow, there are probably other artistic people who don't make that leap fast enough, who are scared to go from drag to YouTube or from theater to YouTube. It's a really scary leap. And then that's when the idea of coaching people, starting the second creator coaching channel to help people teach them what I learned, all came together because I was just so excited to go on that journey. And then once I got through the first year of it and I got monetized and got such a following in 1 year, I immediately started the second channel to make sure I can help as many people as I can to achieve those same goals.
Yeah, and I think that'd be grateful because I think definitely with someone like me who's also starting out with this podcast, I think just to have those people who are doing it really for the love and not just because they're, the worshipers of YouTube that like just want to give their Lord Almighty money. But someone who really is just interested in helping others and also teaching them about what they know about their craft is really just great. Um, and I think, again, I do feel that leap because I have never done anything like this. And, um, this was a huge leap because I didn't know how I was going to do this either. I had no experience prior, but I just figured I wanted a place that I could really just have all of this and have these people to talk about it with. And I think it's gone decent so far, but it could still grow. But it was actually interesting, so like that you mentioned that you don't see yourself in that way, but other people do. So like as your channels kind of grew, did you begin to see yourself the way they did?
I did, yeah. Like, and I think even before it grew, I saw myself in that way, and I think that's the most important thing. Is before I started uploading those videos, I already had to put myself in that mindset of like, you can do this, you're great, and just really pump myself up. So rather than wait for subscribers to come and wait for the success of the channel to feel that way, I took it upon myself to feel that way from day one. So I would literally upload videos, do a great job, upload it to the channel, and it would sit there with 2 or 3 views. And I would wake up the next day and I would do another video. I would not look at the views. I would not look at the analytics, and I was not hard on myself. I just kept saying, just keep going. You got because I remember at one point one comment came rolling in, and a lady ended up saying like, you absolutely have what it takes to do this. Like, it was like day two, and that's all it took was just one little comment to keep me going. And I really just carried a positive mentality, and I grew into what people believed I was. And it took a while, but I had to change the way that I thought. And it was the most beautiful experience ever, and I'm so grateful for it.
Definitely, I definitely agree with you there. And I think it's good that we still have people like you who want to like do this because it's something that interests them and they have a passion for it, and not just, oh, I need the money, or in this day and age I have to adapt to modern trends or anything, but just to have yourself out there is risky like you said, but it still gives you the chance to explore these new grounds and feel how can I like develop myself further in this way that people can see me. And with this encouragement, it gives me a reason to keep, it gives me more encourage, not a reason, but like more encouragement to keep going than I did before. It boosts that confidence. And I remember definitely feeling like that when I started this. I remember the first episode, I got a DM from the original JoJo from the Broadway production of Seussical, who said that he had listened to it and was very excited to hear the rest, and that hopefully if he wasn't busy one day he'd come on.
Mm-hmm.
And the fangirl in me just went all over the walls. I'm like, okay, yep, I gotta keep doing this.
Yeah.
Nope, no question. And speaking of which, let's get to that, Susical. How much of the show did you know before and after, like before versus after you were in the show, and what is your relationship and experience with it?
So I didn't know, I was a kid when I first went out for that show, it was just, the show that my school was doing, which is so crazy because it's like, obviously I feel like destiny has like played a role in this somehow, because I know I was meant to be in that show, meant to be introduced to it, and it's helped me and healed me in so many ways in the future. But at the time of auditioning, I didn't know that. I didn't know anything about the show. I just went out for the musical, and I wanted a big part because, like I said, I was coming off of those 7 summers of being an ensemble, so I was using everything I had to get a big part. And once I started reading the lyrics and the notes for Horton, I realized there was just so much more to it, and I fell in love with it from the beginning. And I think that might have helped me during my audition because even just to sing Alone Universe for the audition was like such an experience for me. And I think my heart came through, and that's how I got the role. And now all the songs mean so much to me, and the show means so much to me. But at the time, I had no clue what I was getting myself into. Like I said, I was just doing whatever the school show was, and that's what it happened to be. So,
Yeah, of course, definitely. When I saw it, I was just like, oh, this is just like like the SpongeBob musical. Is this a children's show? Okay, but it's definitely more than that, and I agree. And what was it, or how was it like getting to portray Horton, this like iconic character who not only was like this iconic Dr. Seuss character, but was portrayed on Broadway by of course legendary Kevin Chamberlain, who we know from like movies, TV shows, and other Broadway things, and how, uh, and like what is oh shoot, uh, and what about your like personal connection did you end up like forming with the character?
I definitely formed an internal bond forever with the character, and I remember at the time because I was so young, and with like Kevin Chamberlain being the original Horton, and a lot of listening to the Broadway soundtrack so much, um, when I was younger, I remember being very intimidated because I felt like it was like this is a grown man's role, and I was 12, so I was just doing the best I could, but I always felt like I was falling short because I wasn't like a fully grown Kevin how he was. But that's wrapped around in today's world where like that's one of the reasons why it's one of my most sought after reprise shows that I want to do. So every couple of months I'm googling if there's Seussical auditions in my area because I feel like my voice and my everything about me has kind of wrapped up to be that adult version of Horton. So at the time I was intimidated and I did what I could with the role, but I'm even more excited to take it on as an adult because I feel like I'm more prepared for it for sure.
Of course, because there is that difference from seeing the role as a child versus not only have there's like two different ways. You can always like see it as an adult, but then you can also take with your case the experience that you had as a child and really see like, okay, how can I flesh that out into this adult role, because it's a mix, because it's like with Horton, he has these like naive and very kind childlike qualities, but he goes through some very serious things in the show, and to really recognize that and like incorporate that into the feelings and directions you choose as an actor is just really crucial, because I know I've seen my fair share of Seussical productions where it just sounds like they're reading off of the book, but to really, it's really when I see those actors are like, okay, it doesn't just sound like my teacher is reading this to me in kindergarten. It really, this feels like a person. They just happen to be an elephant, you know?
Yeah, no, I remember being confused about that as a kid. Like who am I? What am I doing? Like I feel like I may have been more like in the rehearsal process and everything. It was definitely more of like reading from the script. But then I think like as any show is, I think once I got into the tech week and I saw the stories start to fall together, that's when my heart really got involved in the character and in the show. And I have the show on DVD of me doing it at age 12, and I show people to this day, and like unless I tell them that the cast is in 8th grade, like they have no idea because there's just so much heart and magic in that production I did at that age that like you just would never know, because the way that I felt about the show and the character is how all my castmates felt about it. So numbers like Biggest Blame Fool, like when I'm feeling sad and they're feeling like, and the rest of the jungle is picking on him, we took that so seriously. Like we actually got together backstage, and like the Wickersham brothers would let me know, they're like, we're gonna really like push you around today, we're gonna really point at you. And I would look at them and I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna look really upset, like we're gonna really do this. Like we plan to make it the most extra and most vibrant show we could, so it made it easy because I wasn't alone in like the love that I had for it.
Yeah, and I think it's nice that not only are you developing stuff on your own as the character, but you get to, do it and communicate and be on the same ground with other people. You don't always get that in theater. So the fact that you had that with the other cast members, you all shared a love and all had these ideas that eventually came together to form this unique production of the show is just really nice to have.
Yeah.
And I mean, overall, how was it from that like audition to the rehearsal process to opening night to closing show? Just if you could really describe that experience and the impact it had on you compared to say other theater experiences you had, what was that like?
It was incredible. It was a dream come true, and it's so crazy because it was the first, but for some reason it's the most remembered. Like I will go to a Thanksgiving with my family, and I've done probably over 30 shows since Seussical, and 30 shows, 5 singles, 2 YouTube channels, and multiple drag performances later. people still ask me, when am I going to be Horton again? That's how much that's how much of an impact it had on my family when they saw it, friends when they saw it. The school theater seats sold out. People were standing in the back. Like, the power and the magic of that show is something that anyone in my life like will never forget. No matter what I do, and that's why, like I said, that's why when I saw that this was a possibility, it's like, wow, like if there's any show that I'm ever going to talk about in detail, it's this one, because it's the one that inspired me to keep doing shows. It's the one that inspired me to try theater, to try YouTube, like, and then once I get into these new doors and these new avenues, I'm just constantly always thinking about Horton and his heart and the way to treat people and the way people want to be treated. And in this world of social media and influencer and all these crazy terms and different types of people, it's sometimes like not the most healthy of bubbles. So I love that my core values stand where Horton stand, even in this crazy world. And I think that it helps me. And just that process of auditions to the show being over, to being grateful I was in it, that process alone is why I am the way I am today, because I was taught the morals that I learned, that I love today. I was taught by them from this show.
Oh, that is amazing. That is so wonderful. And I agree so much because it just has so much to share apart from the like from the iconic Dr. Seuss. It really has these own individual stories and characters that be, despite the fact that they're anthropomorphic, they they have a lot of these human traits that people can identify from any age, from any type personality type, from any like, if they're on the spectrum, if they're not on the spectrum. It really just has something for almost anyone. And the fact that like people still ask you really just tells you like, you kind of have to be almost a Horton in real life in order to be that character, because you can't just like feel all these things and then just be like, oh, yeah, people suck. I don't care about him. If he gets bullied and gets punched into a wall, that's his problem.
Right.
So, yeah. And really, just I guess overall, apart from family, like how has the show overall, or maybe even like songs, characters, or moments that have impacted you the most, or um, have just had a real impact on your personal life up to today?
Yeah, like all of them. And like I said, it's such a just it's a beautiful show because like if you remember, like me telling you, like in between not doing theater and then doing it again, I took that 9 to 10 years off when I did drag. In those years, those I would call those, like, those were my Maisie years. So there were other characters that I have learned to grab energy from, not just Horton. Like, Horton is where my core values stand, but in my most confident moments of being on stage in drag, I learned that from Maisie. In my most confident moments of hosting podcasts and doing interviews on my YouTube channel, I learned that from the energy in the Cat in the Hat. You know what I mean? From my most crazy,
Yeah,
just want to wake up and be a kid and live in my imagination and watch Disney movies, I learned that from JoJo. So there were just so many stages of my life that I pulled just morals from the characters, from the songs, from the story, and it showed me how to like be myself. And it was just so beautiful. And I'm just, even like I said, like even past Horton, I'm grateful for so many of the characters for so many different ways. And I just like literally would not be who I was if it wasn't for those characters and what I learned from that story.
yeah. I really think it is a show for anyone, and I think that's why I think some people are so attached to it, because it's like, oh, I definitely see this person in me. That's definitely me, and they're like a bird. How? And this is like a Dr. Seuss show. How is it? How does it like retain to me and still keep this like energy and wonderfulness even as a teenager, as an adult, as someone who's in retirement? Like it just has that ability that it just never really ages, and
Yeah.
it's so timeless and so remarkable in the way that it's able to balance between goofiness and maturity with how it talks about its characters and its themes. And
Mm-hmm.
before, I was actually going to ask you something relating to the drag queens and Seussical, but I was curious,
Mm-hmm.
as a fan myself, what are your favorite songs, characters, or moments besides Horton, of course?
Oh my gosh, Amazing Maisie is like my favorite, one of my favorite songs. Um, the large production of, not just because of Horton in it, but the large production of Biggest Blameful, of the jungle coming in on him with the sour kangaroo, is one of my favorite moments. Amazing Maisie is one of my favorite moments. Um, what you call the Gertrude and the Pillberry Bush, and of course All for You. I think those would be like my top three moments. Is like Biggest Blameful, large production, Amazing Maisie, and All for You. Like excluding Horton moments, those are like my three. Like I remember because I'm actually I'm still best friends with my Gertrude from the show, and we just remember how we felt when she sang All for You for me, and like it was a hard song for her to do. Like it's a hard song for any female to do, and I just remember believing in her and looking at her like, you got this, and she was just belting it out to me. So it's a beautiful song and a beautiful moment in this show, but also behind the scenes, like I know what my best friend did to make that song as good as it was, and my other best friend was playing Maisie, so I knew what she did to make that song as good as it was. So it became so much more than me just falling in love with these moments, and it also became like me falling in love of the work people put in to make these moments come to life. So Biggest Blameful, Amazing Maisie, and All for You are probably like my three favorite moments from the show, excluding Horton ones.
Yes. Oh my god, I love All for You. I did that for a competition last year in front of a judge, and I definitely relate to how hard it is because the going from the like going back and forth between a mix and a belt is just so, and
Yes.
you don't know when it's just
Yep.
it gets to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely feel, but I mean, now that you actually say it, excluding Horton, if you weren't in a production, if you weren't in the production as a 12-year-old, why do you think his songs specifically are so important?
I think Horton shows that journey of not knowing who you are, not being confident, not feeling good enough. He starts out that journey with those feelings. And I think it's so relatable because no one's born confident, no one's born great, no one's born doing everything they do. You kind of learn to do those things as life goes on. So to see him go through that journey of not having confidence, not sticking up for himself, not feeling like he was anyone, to at the end, he's fallen in love. He stood up for himself. He feels like he's truly someone, he's truly heard. And on top of that, he's proved to a whole world that they can truly be heard. So he not only turns his own life around in Seussical, he turns around a whole world. And I think that just goes to show you the power that one person can do. And it's the most beautiful story to me.
Oh, I definitely agree because his journey, I think I definitely can relate to my own life and the way he just goes from like being this person who's very shy and not confident about himself or the way he talks to people, but he still wants to help and be the best person he could be, to really having his own limits and defending what he thinks is right and still giving these people the power that they need in order to have a voice. I think it definitely it reminds me of what something he said in Notice Me Horton, that he sang with Gertrude at first, but then there's this other line that he said by himself. The first one was the one that goes, oh shoot, I was just a no one only yesterday. You showed up and showed me something more.
Yeah.
Now I have, wait, no,
Yeah.
I've got is someone who has someone to believe in and to be there for.
Yeah.
And I think it really just shows you how much who has impacted him and his personality and his willingness to want to be stronger.
Yep.
Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah, and then the second one that got me was just, oh, the world would be something new if they
Yep.
noticed a
They
thing or
noticed a
two.
thing or two. I know. And you know, and it's lines like that, they last forever. Like that was 17 years ago I sang that line, and it still resonates today. Oh, the world would be something new if they learned a thing or two. There's always something for the world to learn. There's always something to grow with. And I love that those themes still just carry over to today, and that's what makes it so excited to do over and over again and listen to over and over again is that it's you always feel that way. There's always something to learn, there's always more to teach, there's always more to love. You just got to tap into those feelings.
Oh yes, and I think the show is like one of the rare ones because with theater and just things a lot in media, there are going to be things where depending on the time it was made, it's not going to age well. But Seussical is one of those rare exceptions that it can not only did it just flourish with how like with the years it's gotten older, but also its audience just expands more and more because you're just able to really apply them to real life things and not just see them as entertainment from Dr. Seuss books. Like
Yeah.
again, like I've said, I have autism, so I really relate to like Horton saying that because it's like, oh, how I wish people in my life would notice that I struggle with these sort of things and that I wish that the world was more accepting and not infantizing towards people on the spectrum, and I think that's just wonderful.
Yeah, and I knew that I take it my way, but like that's the most beautiful part is that everyone can take it their way. Like whatever makes you feel alone, you can flip it to the same way Horton did. Like his story just resonates with everyone. So I'm glad that you got something from it too, and it was able to inspire you. And I'm sure in a lot of ways, more than the more obvious ones, I'm sure that's why you're able to do what you're doing today with this because there's so much strength in that character and in that show. So I can see how you also transferred it over into your life. So you should be proud.
Yeah, I really hope you are too, because the fact that it's even shaped you into adulthood and make you, and like you take the themes from the show, but you still incorporate that into the things you do now, it just really shows that it almost feels like that parental figure you had as a child, or just that someone or something that you never really let go of because it's always been a part of your life for as long as you can remember. And even like if you haven't seen it for a while, you still remember it and you still make it a part of who you are because it just never leaves you.
Yep, exactly. Never
Yeah.
ever.
So this was actually something interesting I thought about when uh, reading your bio was that I noticed that you were a drag queen, and this reminded me of a production of Seussical that happened at Texas State University last year. That they decided, instead of going the classic like bouncy, energetic, cartoony Seuss setting type show, they decided to do it in a city, or I guess quite like a literal concrete jungle because
Mm-hmm.
they made it as a joke for the jungle Noel.
Mm-hmm.
And as part of this, not only did they have some unique costumes and set design choices, but they actually took it a step further. And I'm sure you especially will enjoy this because I've actually seen people who also kind of did a similar thing. They decided to make the character of Maisie a drag queen.
So I think I saw the exact performance you're talking about on YouTube of the Texas
Yeah,
University. I'm pretty sure because again, as a super fan, I'm constantly looking for new versions and new performances on YouTube, and I saw that drag queen Maisie, and I flipped out. Now here's the thing about that. Small story about this.
yeah.
This past summer, and another crazy reason why Seussical is such a crazy catapult for me. Before I landed the role of the Little Mermaid in the fall, I knew I wanted to return to theater, and when I did that, I found a Seussical audition, and I went out for Horton. And when I was about to go out for Horton, I was this close to going out for Maisie only because now I know we live in that day and age where that's acceptable and I have the practice because I've done the years of drag. But I decided to not go out for Maisie because I was so afraid that the heart and soul of Horton would be overshadowed if they saw my Maisie audition. Because the characters are so different, I didn't want the director to think that, oh, if he sees me be the fabulous flamboyant Maisie, that I wouldn't have the heart to be Horton, or vice versa. If he sees my heart of Horton, that I won't have the charisma to be Maisie. So I chose to just go out for Horton. I didn't end up getting it, and then in return, a week later, I got Sebastian, so it was fine. Everything led into each other perfectly. But yeah, just a small short story that my last Seussical audition, I almost went out for Maisie too, but I decided to pretend I didn't know about the character because I didn't want the director to think that, oh, he has what it takes to be Maisie. Why the hell would I cast him as Horton? Because they're so different. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hate that, especially when it's like you have these roles that you feel like you're able to have the abilities and confidence to do both, but it's
Yeah,
like if you show off one more than the other, then they're just gonna assume you're only good at that and that
exactly.
they
But
cast you as a character type.
low key, I am just like I'm on a hunt to play Horton as many times again. I do have it in my heart to play Maisie one of these years, and I will try my best to make it happen because I just feel like she is so much a part of me, just like Horton. And yeah, so that's definitely coming at some point, also.
Oh my god, I would kill to see that. I've seen a few videos of drag queens doing Amazing Maisie as part of their skit, and I was like, okay, why isn't this in like an actual production? Because like
Yeah,
this is so good and it fits so well for the times. Like, and the fact that Texas State University actually made it a reality was just so good.
I know, and that's why you when you do stuff like that, you have to upload it to the internet because like even me being so comfortable with who I am and already been doing drag for over a decade, I still just never thought that would be an opportunity. But the minute I saw that Texas State University kid do it, I was like, "Oh, I'm playing Maisie one day." Like I don't know when and I don't know how, but one of these years I'm playing Maisie because I didn't know that we could do that. I didn't know that they would cast someone a drag queen to do that. But now all it took was for me to see it done once, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be doing this one year for sure.
Yeah. And the fact that it is like a college student who's like so young and doing this and still like in school is just awesome. And
Yeah.
like, don't get me started on the way he was on those stairs and then ripped off the bottom of his dress and the two little pom poms on his shoulder.
Yeah, no, I
So
mean that's what
good.
you get when you get drag queen flavor in it. You're getting a whole new Maisie, and it can really elevate the show, and especially the ideas that I have for the character. Because I love the show so much, so I wouldn't even need much blocking because I just already know what I would do with her, and it would be amazing.
No, it's like the I don't need directions. The director needs me.
Right. When I'm Maisie, yeah. When I'm Horton, I'll take all the directions. But I feel like I already feel the power of Maisie, even not even being cast as her yet. That I just there's so much I want to do with her for fun, and I can't wait to do it.
Oh my god, yeah. I feel like that's just with all that's all Maisie actors are probably going to go through that at some point in their lives when they play the character that when they're getting directions, they just kind of know and get that confidence and power within them to just be like, "You can take a seat, honey. I got this."
Right. I mean, I think that's the true Maisie way to do it, right? To direct it myself.
Exactly. And I think it's just really nice again to have well, not again, but like to have this sort of representation and this new these new ideas that are being shown in things that have been made like 20 something years ago, and now we're doing them in like new modern flavors. So I guess how important and impactful do you think it is to have these diverse and non-traditional characters on stage who either were traditional before or not be portrayed in a positive and encouraging way that also, especially with some, interact with the youth, especially in the case of Seussical, it has a very young audience. When at the same time, with this modern day world, both the drag queens and the LGBTQ plus community are faced with mixed views from society.
It's I think it's incredibly important, and it's almost in the same category and same argument with the new Ariel coming out for the live action Little Mermaid. You know, that character being portrayed by a person of color is opening up the door for other little girls to feel like they can then become that character too. Whether it be for Halloween, whether it be for auditioning for a show, they will feel like a Disney Princess Ariel too now because of the new casting. So that little clip of the boy playing Maisie at Texas State, that was like my version of seeing like a colored person play Ariel. Like seeing a boy play Maisie was that ticket for me to be like, wow, I can do it too. So that's important. What that's called is representation, and what that shows the future generations is that they can also do that. But unfortunately, for years and years, the same people have been playing the same characters, and like things haven't taken good turns. But when stuff like that happens, I just like to jump on the bandwagon. Like I'm so happy of the Ariel casting, and I'm so happy that they're letting boys play Maisie because it's giving hope to new boys. It's giving hope to new girls of color who want to go out for Ariel. Like it gives hope, even if you don't get the part. to think that you can do it because you see someone else do it is just so exciting. Like, I mean, I'm obsessed with it to the point where, like, in my case with the boy and Maisie, like, if I don't get to play Maisie on stage, I will most likely convert a Maisie performance into a YouTube video, just because I'm that inspired by what he has done, and I want to show people what I can do with the character. That literally, if I never get casted as it, I'll cast myself and I'll make a YouTube video. Like, that's how much I love it, and that's how inspired people should be when they see someone like them doing something they want to do. Like, if they can do it, you can too, and that's how I want people to think. You know?
Yeah, and that's beautiful because oh my god, please make that video now. I want to see it so bad. Um, oh god, I need more drag Maisie in my life.
I'm good. It's all, when I tell you I have a list of like must do videos, it's slowly creeping up there because I'm like, if I don't do this show soon, I'm gonna end up just doing it on my channel and playing every character because that's how that's how bad I want to do it. But I'm like, I can't find the audition anywhere, so I'm like, do I have to direct this myself? Like, I'm getting to that point, but so I'll let you know. You'll be the first to know when it's done. I'll send it to you.
Oh my god, please. That would make my day so much. But the representation I think is really nice. I think I actually, now that I think about it, if I remember correctly, I think the person playing Horton was actually also non-binary, so that makes it even better. And I just to have that because I think in the case of Seussical, because it's not really it's always kind of been like that, especially with like characters like the Cat in the Hat. Like that has been written as a gender neutral role ever since the licensing came out, and that really has to do with the fact because with the history of the show, it was first played by a male, assigned male at birth person, Eric Idle, and then when they went to workshops, it was played by Andrea Martin, who is assigned female at birth. But then as the show grew, it just became like it's not really about like who or what kind of person plays it. It's just if they can tell the story and show these characters for who they really are, that's the most important part. And I think that's just the genius of Aarons and Flaherty's writing and score is just there is no limit. It's a Seuss world. They
Yeah.
don't have these sort of limitations and rules that they follow like we do with our society. It's really just it gives you that creative freedom
Yeah.
and also freedom with your identity to just you don't like again, you can be a boy and still play Maisie. You can be non-binary and play Horton. You can be a person of color and still play Gertrude. You can just any of these things and I feel like it's what if we had more shows like these that just open the doors and focus more on their storytelling and character personalities rather than like making their race or their identity like the main focus of their character, I think we could really see like a positive change for theater as a whole.
I agree. That was so well said, and it just just you saying that just makes goes to show that the show was just so ahead of its time. Like I completely forgot. You're so right about how the cat was a genderless character, and I think that may have paved the way for Maisie to also be a genderless character. You know, so in so many ways, it was ahead of its time. Like it was doing what it's doing today, but in small form by letting anyone be the cat. And now it's tripling up on that. Even the last time I auditioned for it, both Maisie and the Sour Kangaroo were accepting drag queens. So it's even grown from where it was last year that even more characters are allowed to be played by males if they can kill it. Now, mind you, if the girls kill it, then give the girl a part. But if a drag queen comes in and can slay it, they should absolutely be gifted the role. You know?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Because I mean, you don't want to just hire that person for the sake of like putting in the representation. It's great, but like if they don't
Exact.
make it natural, then what's the point?
Exactly. Like giving that person the role is with it being said that they absolutely smashed it and deserve it. Now, if a girl comes in and kills all the drag queen Maisies, then the girl needs to be the Maisie. Because I have seen that too. I've seen girls do better than that. Like that kid did great at Texas State, but I have seen girls do better than that. So it's whatever whoever it is going for the part. Like it's whoever's at the audition is what matters. You know.
Yeah, and yeah, it's just like for characters like the cat or Maisie, it's like we don't care. Can you are you good at like creating chaos on stage and making everyone else feel miserable? Great, you got the part.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm just really great, and I think before I come with my closing question, I think, is there anything else you really want to talk about with the show, and really how much it's impacted you, and what you think people should know more about the show? Since again, it is, we briefly talked about this right before we started recording, how the show does have a very mixed uh, reputation, because theater kids either hate it because they have trauma from their productions, or they just straight up hate it, or they like it but not really for the fact that it has some beautiful elements, but rather for nostalgia. So is there anything you think the people should know about why it should be loved for more than those reasons?
Yeah, I mean, first off, most like movies and television and Broadway shows are first reviewed by critics. And it's really sad that one group of critics can come out of a movie or a show and say it's bad, that is the stamp of approval for the whole world. And I just don't think that that's an appropriate or wise way to live your life. I think that, especially when it comes to media, music, movies, and film, you should dive into albums that capture your heart. You should dive into shows that make you give you goosebumps. You should watch movies that impact your life and for the better and change you. Whether or not that movie's a blockbuster hit shouldn't matter. Whether or not the Broadway show is sold out shouldn't matter. Whether or not the album's on the Billboard Top 100 shouldn't matter. What should matter is how you feel when you're absorbing the content. And with this show, the songs have changed me, the characters have changed me. It's a part of my life and a part of my heart forever, regardless of what the critics said the first 2 weeks it was on Broadway. So I want people to keep that in mind, not only now while they're thinking about seeing Seussical or listening to Seussical, think about that as things come out in the future. Like if a new movie came out on Friday and your friend told you it was bad, or you read a review and then online that it was bad, you saw a status that it was bad, that's one status. Go see the movie yourself. Go listen to the song yourself. Go take things in yourself, because I would hate for someone who needs these morals to miss this show. There may be someone who needs that growth and needs the support and needs to see a character like Horton or like Maisie to feel confident. And if they were skipped out in the show because they heard a critic say it's bad, they're then missing that experience. And that would be so sad to me, to know that this show and this music could help you grow as a person and become a better human, but you're missing out because you heard a critic say it wasn't good. So just I want people to pay attention to what makes them feel good when it comes to media, and follow their heart. And that's the best. That's what I've done with this, because I when I did the show to begin with, I was, those critics and that news was fresh. Like we were doing a show that people didn't like, and we did it anyway, and now it's what you would call a cult classic. And if you actually look at the top 10 performed high school shows in like the country in the past couple of years, Seussical stays at a steady like 6 or 7. It's like right under Grease and like Les Mis. So what's happened over time is the morals and love of this show has gotten around because of people like us. So we're starting to overwash those critics of those first couple of Broadway years, because now it's getting done in more high schools. People are falling more in love with it. So I think people who have people who have the love that we have for the show, we're doing a pretty good job, because it's making its way around and starting to capture people's hearts more and more every year. So it's a good thing.
Of course, of course. We're doing you proud, Aarons and Flaherty.
Exactly.
I'm kidding. But yeah, I think definitely with like these stories, and not just for Seussical, but for everything, it really matters on how much it impacts you as a person, because if it's able to really get its message across, both the messages it's intended and it has both and did not intend, then either way I consider that a plus for that creation. And I think it should really be proud of that it was able to influence someone in that way, in a positive light, that they can either be seen or take it into their own lives and maybe learn more. And I think, with Seussical, again, I know it's not a perfect show. Um, it didn't have the best look on Broadway, and it can be stuffed, but regardless, that's not what I'm taking away. I'm taking away what the original intent was, and to tell this story about, you know, all these different things. You can be yourself without having to grow a tail or get surgery. You can You don't have to be like this all powerful person in order to stand up and give someone a voice when they're being ridiculed. You are allowed to have your own things, and no one should tell you that you shouldn't think them otherwise. These are really important for not just children, but for anyone really, because we have that, we're in that, we've been living in those worlds as humans where we kind of are told what to do based on if it's socially acceptable or not. So I think having these kinds of things that we can personally relate to and enjoy without the judgment of others is really important to how not only the things we enjoy, but who we are as people.
Absolutely, yes. I can tell we feel exactly the same way about this show. That's why I knew that this would go so smoothly because I know we feel the same way.
Yes, I know. It's so rare that I mean, apart from like maybe one or two people in the actual Seussical server, which everyone listening should go join, by the way. I think I don't really often get people who talk about this show and like it outside of that they were in it, and you are both like that's the really rare that you've both been in it and that's why you like it, but you also like it because it actually is a pretty good show.
Yes.
So I'm so glad that I got to have that conversation.
Yes, and I will before we end, I'll let you know this last little tidbit, a little behind the scenes information, which I haven't really even announced in my own social world. But the same company that I did Little Mermaid with last year, which they do a fall show every year, they have chosen to do Seussical this fall. So I will be auditioning for Horton in August, and hopefully we'll be playing him this fall. So if I do that, I will let you know, and I'd be happy to even come back on and do a part two with you where I talk about what it's like 17 years later because if I get this part again, it's going to change me again. So I would love to come back and talk to you about it if you're interested and give people like an update on that.
Oh, of course, hands down. I was when I heard that, I'm like, oh, he better be auditioning. That'd be such wasted potential. But yes, please, I would love to have you back on again if that happens, and to have that nice little retrospective and have that reflection of like how do you do this show as a child versus like now as an adult growing up in this world and the
Yeah.
time that has passed in between that you learn more about this show. And I think that would be amazing.
Yeah, I'm excited. They just announced it recently, so I'm like, I'm excited. I'm always brushing up because I'm always listening, but now it's like now it means something more. You know what I mean? So it's exciting. I'll
Yeah.
definitely keep you
And
posted.
you're living my dream because the theater company I do, they actually really despise Seussical,
Well,
and
listen,
they've
as we
made
know,
it.
it can go either way. So I got lucky when I went to do Mermaid. I kept putting that bug in their ear, like, please do Seussical, please do Seussical. And luckily, they were already thinking about it. So I got lucky at the place that I'm at right now. But however, I have gone to theater companies that do what you just said. They're like, there's no way we would ever do that. So it's either one or the other, is how people feel.
Yeah, like they never really gave a reason other than just as soon as I said the name, they're like, don't even. It's like a we don't talk about Bruno thing. We don't talk about
I
Seussical
know,
here.
I know.
Yeah. So we're gonna close in a second, but I did want to thank you again for coming on and really being the first interview that we had here and giving me the experience. I did want to give you a question as a again as the content creator coach. Is there any advice you would like to give me or people who might be listening who are interested in doing what you do or what I do or just getting stuff out there and like wanting to be more like professional with how they do it instead of just recording on Anchor or something like that? Like what advice would you give people like us?
Of course, of course. First of all, you are always welcome in my DMs for questions going forward. If you have any questions about anything, I'm always happy to help you. I'm always happy to help anybody. My side of doing that comes from a world of when I started that content creation journey, I didn't have a lot of people to turn to ask for questions. And the people that I did turn to for questions did what you call gatekeeping, which is when they hold the answers because they know that once I get them, I'll do something great with it. They could see that I had potential to make it on these platforms and didn't want to help me. So when I see people who have great ideas and a potential, I do the opposite. I help them. I don't gatekeep. I answer questions. I'm always available, and I make those videos for free on the Nigel Battle content creation coaching channel for people like you and for people who want to start or learn to grow on these platforms. So, most importantly, I would just say communicate and keep in touch. My general rule of thumb of advice for anyone who wants to be a creator, start a podcast, write a book, start a YouTube channel, grow as an influencer, my number one source of advice is just to start, which you've already done, which is you've done a beautiful job of that. And that's my main advice for anyone out there who's questioning whether they're good enough. My advice is to start. As far as perfecting yourself and getting better and growing your brand and becoming something bigger than what you are, that takes work, that takes time, that takes discipline. And I'm definitely here to help anyone out. If you want to check out that Nigel Battle content creation coaching channel, it's on Instagram, it's on TikTok. There's a podcast, the Creator Chop podcast, that I just started, also on Spotify. Out of the fact that there's so much going on in my head about being a creator. Sometimes I still personally don't have enough people to talk to. So I started the Creator Chop podcast to talk about different topics about being a creator, like whether it's positive or negative. So listening to not only my podcast, but other coaches, other videos, there's so much to learn. So that second form of advice would be to really get out there and learn, not only on my Creator Chat YouTube channel where I post the free videos, and not only on my Creator Chat podcast, but other strategy podcasts, other strategy YouTube channels that teach you exactly what I've learned. I just teach in my own way, but there's still so much knowledge out there. So whatever your niche is, whatever your platform is, whatever your brand is that you want to grow, just remember that there's someone out there to learn from, and don't give up. Always go all in. That's my number one advice. Always go all in and give it your all, and you will grow and you will learn as you go. Yeah, that's all I can say. One of my worst pet peeves for my clients and the people that I do work with is that, so a lot of people don't start. I'm not going to start my podcast because I don't have a good mic. Or I'm not going to start my YouTube channel because I don't have a good camera. No. Use your phone. You can record on your phone audio, and you can record video on your phone. There's no excuse to not just start if you have a good idea. Don't miss out on showing the world what you have inside you because you feel like you don't have the right equipment. And even like with today, like I'm very proud of you because so many people will be like, oh, Skype's not working. Okay, I'll try it another day. Like, no, try the next service, keep it moving, close it, and try. You learn as you go, and it's a beautiful experience. And I'm definitely here if anyone has any questions. My main Instagram is at Princess Pudding, and then the content coaching Instagram is at the Nigel Battle. But I answer the DMs in both. So if anyone has any questions, especially you, I am here for you all.
Thank you. And that's beautiful. I'm going to clip that last part because my friend wants to start a podcast and she said all those things. So, Lily, if you're watching this, you know who you are. So, yeah, this is really wonderful advice. And I think for anyone to really just start, and that it speaks both to people who just want to start like media stuff and also just in general who want to try new things. Like, don't let these small things just keep you away. Don't make this one little rock become an entire stone wall just because it gives you some anxiety. Like, the best part about overcoming that is just diving in without even thinking. You don't like you learn, you think more as you go on. And that you don't have to be this professional perfectionist like when you start. That's not at all what I am. I just did this because I love Seussical and I will never shut up about it. So now other people are going to be forced against their will to hear it because of this podcast.
Yeah. And that's same very much with my Creator Chat podcast is fairly new, and people thought I was crazy for doing that on top of everything else I'm already doing. But when you have an idea in your mind of something that you can't stop thinking about, that should be your niche. That should be your topic. And that's how I feel about content creation and growing online. That's why I started that. And the fact that you feel that with Seussical, that's how you know that this is the perfect topic for you. So that's what people should think about when they're thinking about starting their channels or a podcast. Make sure that what you're about to embark on is something that you'll never get sick of, is the thing. So...
Definitely. I think I can never get. I think much like you, I can never get sick of this show. It's just
Mm-hmm.
it's too good, and it will remain timeless for me. I remember when I saw the 21st anniversary concert on stream. It was one of the most emotional moments of my life. That didn't have to do with mental illness. It was just pure seeing that come back after like 20 years was like beautiful to me. And I think just because it's helped you in your life too, and that you are willing to use these aspects of the characters in the story as part of your own personality to want to help others and grow your own thing and just teach and make this a more open community for people who want to get into media and be hosts for things, I think is really special.
Thank you. And thank you so much for letting me have a space to tell that story today. I can't wait to share this with everyone that I know and for them to hear everything we talked
Yeah.
about, inspire them. I know this story alone and the way you talked about it and the way I talked about it, this episode will definitely inspire a lot of people. So good job.
Yeah, thank you. You too. Oh, I had a quick question. Just because, as a Seuss fan, I gotta know
Yeah.
right before we end.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel when people spell it as SUE instead of SEU?
Oh, I don't know if I've come across that. However, I cannot hold anyone against grammatical errors because I have a lot of them. But I've never misspelled Seussical. But at the
Oh
same
my
time,
god.
I guess
The,
it's like the heart important in me, where I'm like, if you do it, I'll let it slide because anyone can make a mistake, but I'll most likely correct them. I've never come across anyone spelling it wrong though. So
oh my god, the amount of people on TikTok that have spelled it as like the name Sue instead of Seuss. Oh my god. I guess I shouldn't care, but it's just the fact that I've seen the name for so long. There was even a Tumblr post about it that said it's SEU, not USE, and they say it 5 times in different fonts, and it's my favorite joke of all time.
that's so funny. I'll have to look out for that now that you said it. I'll probably see it now that you said it. I'll see it now all the time.
Yes, it's people. If you're listening, it's SEU, not SUE. For the love of God, if
Yeah.
you want me to keep my remaining sanity, please just
Yes. Let them
do
know.
that. It's you can see the name in the picture of in the cover of the show. It's not that hard. Um,
I love it.
well, anyway, thank you so much, Nigel, for coming on, and thank you for everyone to listening. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Uh, I don't know what the next one's going to be. It's either going to be another interview with someone I've already been talking to, or a solo one that I'm probably I'll just pick out of a hat what I want to talk about because I have a bunch of things planned. But yeah, thank you so much again, Nigel, for coming on and just being a part of this.
Thank you for having me and good luck. And also, don't forget to let me know if you need anything, okay?
Of course, of
All right.
course. And thank you guys who are watching again. Please follow our socials. I'll link Nigel's socials in the places that I post this episode and promote it. And again, we don't have a Patreon, but and I think I need like 14 more people to watch this show in order to get like monetized. So let's hope that happens. But until then, thank you guys so much. And until next time, see you in Salisaloo.
Bye.